Well, guys and girls, this really could be the year when precious metals are finally allowed to be let loose. I've said it a few times, but I keep thinking, and what I'm seeing, this could be the year. It really could. I just got done doing the very last video before this one about I said, I normally don't look at the charts and the fundamentals anymore when it comes to, this is really good for gold and silver because this such and such. When you control the rigged markets like the club does, the government through their paper exchanges and the COMEX, no chart means anything. Head and shoulders pattern, nothing matters. Bullish, bearish, nothing. Whatever they want to do happens. But I'm seeing more and more stuff though telling me this could be the year, gold and silver. And srsrockoreport.com has a article. They say powerful gold and silver coiled springs, important charts you have to see. So again, I do have to take it with a little grain of salt because another chart. I can get out chart and draw little bands and show the bottoms, and this is bullish and this is bear. None of it matters when the club is in control. But what if they're losing control? What if now that Trump's in power, they understand we've got to start relinquishing control and back off of what we're doing? This could all be part of the plan, which might mean coincidentally 2017 is the year, not just because of what I'm about to tell you or show you about in this article, but because it's just time. 2017, the club, etc. So you have a couple of forces working together. One of the force, the club backing off. The other force, fundamentals, what the charts show, what should be really happening with gold and silver, etc. Now he says, according to the fundamentals, gold and silver are severely compressed coiled springs, if you will, looking for an opportunity to release their tremendous power. Yes, it is true, the precious metals still hold a great deal of power, which is why their prices are constantly controlled by market intervention. Of course, the market intervention of gold and silver didn't start recently. Oh no, this has been going on for quite some time. Even though the central banks and gadflies on the financial networks have been able to bamboozle the public into believing gold is a barbarous relic, and fundamentals and laws of nature can be broken forever, as serious consequences normally follow. When I read comments from supposedly intelligent people who believe gold is nothing more than a 13th century Middle Ages relic and that digital currency is the new future, what in the hell happened to IQ levels recently? There seems to be this notion put forth by many in the mainstream and alternative media that technology is going to save us and will be the new religion of the future. I think he's referring to Bitcoin, if I don't mind saying so. While I have nothing against technology per se, it will not be the solution to our extremely serious energy predicament we're about to face head on. For example, there are several voices out in the alternative media suggesting that alien technology will be finally released into the world, thus allowing our advanced empire to continue indefinitely. This, of course, would be a great benefit for Americans, as it would allow them to continue filling their homes and rental storage units with all sorts of crappy consumer products. According to the supposed history of alien encounters on Earth, they have been toying with humans for quite some time, so the idea that they now will allow us to use some of their technology to save a species that shows such a high degree of ignorance, stupidity, cruelty, and greed doesn't pass the smell test to me, he says. Hold on, I can take that a step further. How many empires have come and gone in the past? Okay, we had the Egyptian, the Persian, Roman, and Mayan empires, to name a few. Byzantine era too, yeah. You would think if aliens were going to start saving humans from being the poor, unworthy slobs they have been for thousands of years, they would have done so already, wouldn't they? But maybe we finally passed the test for our species and now the aliens think we deserve a break. Just like a freshly opened bottle of Coke. Yeah, that's it. We've passed the test of being wise, prudent, caring, and generous with one another. The plants, animals. And let's not forget about the environment too. Fukushima, BP oil spill, you get the point. On the other hand, logic suggests we are about to hit another Seneca cliff, just like all the other prior empires that dried up and blew away. And quite quickly, I may add. So even though there may be more intelligent life forms roaming the galaxy, it doesn't seem quite likely they are going to waste much time on a species that has totally run amok, which means we little people here on Earth are going to have to take it upon ourselves to continue onwards when the greatest financial Ponzi scheme finally pops. And pop it will. The gold and silver coiled springs, storing tremendous power. Over the years, monetary power shifted away from the precious metals and over to the fiat monetary regime, a debt-based, worthless paper currency system. This started long ago, but if we have to put a date on it, it would be 1969. I will get into the particulars in an upcoming article. However, the notion, again, that gold is a 13th century barbarous relic fails to consider that the world ran on a gold-backed US dollar system up until 1971. This wasn't that long ago. Moreover, we still used silver in our coinage up to 1965. While some silver coins, such as the Kennedy half dollar, were still minted for the general public up until 1969, silver was removed from U.S. coinage in 1965. The real reason that silver was finally removed from U.S. coinage in 65 was that it was too valuable to be used as money. LOL, he says, laughing out loud. It's too valuable to be used as money. How is something too valuable to be used as money? It's perfect for money if that's the case. It has value, right? I know that sounds silly, but that is the truth. Now, when I say money, I mean what it has degraded to over the past 50 years. There just wasn't enough silver to go around to meet the insatiable demand coming from the expanding industrial and jewelry sectors. To use silver in coinage as well as supply future industrial and jewelry demand, there just wasn't enough of the shiny metal. This is exactly what President Lyndon Johnson stated during his comments after signing the 1965 Coinage Act. Now, all of you know these changes are necessary for a very simple reason. Silver is a scarce metal. Our uses of silver are growing as our population and our economy grows. The hard fact is that silver consumption is now more than double new silver production each year. So in the face of this worldwide shortage of silver and our rapidly growing need for coins, the only really prudent course was to reduce our dependence on silver for making our coins. And that was his end quote. Now, I will say, because I know we did the fake oil scare in the 1970s, and the president had to come out and give another fake speech just like that. We got to go to the Middle East, and we have to work with these people. You know we call them terrorists all the time, but they got the oil, and we don't. But it was a lie. Like Lindsay said, we found 200-year supply of oil off of Gull Island in Alaska. And then after he left in 1973, his friend told him who was there, we found another pool just as large. So that's 400-year supply for America. 400. But we were told there was an oil scare, peak oil, all this crap. So am I going out on a limb here when I say that maybe the president, when he gave that speech I just read you, was lying? There was plenty of silver, but they realized what was going to happen to the price of silver, and we need to go back on this paper, backed by nothing fiat currency system. So just give them a good reason why we can't use silver coins anymore. That's honestly how I felt. My opinion is on that. But he says here, well, there you have it. While the grand conspiracy that silver was removed from currency to give more power to the elite may hold some truth, the real reason was much more simple. There just wasn't enough silver to go around. Furthermore, I really don't believe the elite are really as smart and clever as some make them out to be. Again, if we go back in history and look at all the empires that have come and gone, you would think that the elite would have had a better plan than allowing everything to go to hell in a handbasket, time after time. You know, I think he's got a point. And I need a sip of water. We must remember back in a day when the world was using silver as money, life was a lot simpler. There were no cell phones or iPads. There were no electronics or solar panels that required silver. Rather, we basically spent most of our time walking around dressed in glorified burlap sack clothing, growing food or producing simple consumer goods while enjoying a bath once a week. Gosh, how times have changed. Regardless, the days of the fiat monetary regime are numbered. There's just too much debt and derivatives overhanging the system to allow us to continue for much longer. Thus, in order to keep the fiat monetary regime alive, the value of real money, such as gold or silver, has to be kept in the dark. If we look at the following two charts, we can plainly see that gold and silver are both standing at the doorway of a major inflection point, which I will go ahead and pull this up for you to view. Normally, I don't pay much attention to the technical analysis, but in this case, we are on the verge of a very critical technical breakout. Of course, this is more important for hedge funds, institutions, and large traders to follow, but in both charts, the gold and silver price remained above the 50-day moving average for a decade. However, when QE3, quantitative easing 3, was announced at the end of 2012, central bank liquidity made its way into stocks, bonds, and real estate. The precious metals were left out to dry. If we recall from the quote when Lyndon Johnson said that silver was a scarce material over 50 years ago, it's even more scarce today. The same with gold. When the gold and silver prices were knocking on the door to reach new highs in 2012, this just could not stand, which is precisely why both gold and silver's 50-day moving average and have fallen below and stayed there for the past 4 years. However, both precious metals are once again tapping up against that 50-day moving average. They first tapped up against it in 2016 for good reason. When the Dow Jones Index was scaring the living hell out of the markets by rapidly falling in the beginning of 2016, investors were getting a hint of precious metals religion. Thus, investors flocked into gold and silver, gold and blue colored lines, which I'm not showing you this chart at the moment, in a big way, pushing their prices up as the Dow Jones Index fell nearly 1,000 points during 5 trading days in the beginning of February 2016. This isn't rocket science. Fear provides an excellent motivation for bringing people back to their senses. However, this was just for a short while as the Fed and central banks ramped up their stock and bond purchases. God only knows just how insane this amount must be. Thus, calm was brought back into the markets, allowing investors to go back to being totally insane once again. Unfortunately, duct tape, baling wire, and hot air cannot keep a market from succumbing to the fundamental laws of real economics. The Dow Jones Index is so inflated, it's overvalued by at least 60% for starters. According to the economic contraction cycle that occurs about every 6 years, the Dow Jones Index is severely overdue for a good old-fashioned beating. If we assume that a normal correction for the Dow Jones would be for it to fall about 8,000 points, the index is overvalued by at least 60%, and that is just for starters. As I have mentioned in previous articles, where we are heading is nothing like anything we have experienced before. Well, sure, we could go back and look at the remains of the Egyptian, Persian, Roman, and Mayan empires for clues, but this would not be a good topic to bring up at the next family gathering or office party. We must remember, most Americans are way too busy spending money they don't have on crap that they really don't need to be bothered with the truth that we are going to go head over the Seneca cliff, and there isn't anything to stop it. For all those who are new to the alternative media, the Seneca cliff came from the work of an ancient Roman philosopher named Lucius Seneca. According to Lucius Seneca, increases are of sluggish growth, but the way to ruin is rapid. Like it or not, We will most certainly experience the ramifications of the Seneca Cliff in the future. Unfortunately, technology will not save us from this fate. Rather, the more technology we use to try to solve our dire energy predicament, the worse the cliff dive will be. I discussed this in my article, Continental Resources, Example of What is Horribly Wrong with the U.S. Shale Oil Industry. While I'm being a broken record on this subject matter, I continue to receive new subscribers every day on the site. Furthermore, the more individuals look at this data and information, the more light bulbs go off. It takes time for this stuff to sink in. Heck, it has taken me years to come to this realization. Lastly, the value of gold and silver are going to skyrocket in the future. However, I have no idea how bad things are going to be when the fat debt lady finally sings. But at least physical precious metals will offer much better options in the future rather than 99% of the stock, bond, and real estate liabilities out there which are masquerading as assets. Check back for new articles and updates at the SRS Rocco Report. And that is srsroccoreport.com. And I've seen people, I've been reading my comments lately. You guys have been talking about, Bill Holter's been talking about this stuff for the last whatever years. It's not, nothing has happened. Nothing's going to happen. And I can't believe the idiocy of some people. Nothing's going to happen. It already happened in '08. How many people's pensions were destroyed in '08? 401ks destroyed in '08. I know people I work with had 2 houses, a beach house, sold, short sold, couldn't even sell the damn thing on the beach. I'm talking pristine beach over here, Anna Maria Island. Pristine. Had to short sell it. Couldn't get the market price that she needed to get out of it. Gone. That was not a one-off story. It already happened. That, my friends, was a walk in the park to what's going to happen. Because what was the debt load of the world in '08? Excuse me. And what is it now? GDP, debt to GDP, is almost, not quite, almost 3 times debt to GDP. That is the equivalent of you making $100 a week and spending not quite $300 a week, but call it $250. You make $100 a week, you spend $250. That's the entire world's debt system. That's how we're all looking. And supposedly America, we're 106% of GDP, debt to GDP. So we're just spending at just a hair more than GDP. But what happens if interest rates rise, my friends? Nothing else has to change. And that 106% debt to GDP could go up pretty significantly. Why? Because the debt that's out there that we have to pay interest on every month, every year, goes up substantially. The payment does because the interest rates rise. The same way as your adjustable rate mortgage did. Oh, I'm paying $1,200 a month. And then it ballooned up 2 or 3 percentage points. Oh my God, it's $1,500. I can't afford that. Default. Same thing can happen to us. The only thing that I can give the naysayers, and it's not even giving them anything, is none of us can give a legitimate time frame. But we can't for legitimate reasons. This is the collapse of empires, economic systems we've relied on for all these years, massive debt. We don't know. I can't give you an exact date, but I can certainly look back at an Economist magazine ran by the club and give some hints possibly. 2018 could be the year where we really see some fireworks. We might see them this year, as I said earlier, with Mr. David Stockman that worked for Ronald Reagan. And he just came out and said he was on Greg USA Watchdog. And he's telling us this mathematically can't end well. And he personally thinks debt ceiling expiration, if you will, March, I think 15th, 2017. So a couple weeks from now, he's thinking Congress is not going to kick that can again and say, okay, We gave Obama $10 trillion in his 8 years. We're not going to forget to Trump. You're not going to get that. He's suggesting they're not going to go there. Trump needs them to go there. Massive infrastructure spending, massive military budget. I mean, this guy wants to spend some money. And he also wants to bring taxes down to bring the corporations back to America. I get it. I wish him luck. I want him to be successful. But this is bigger, much, much, much bigger than anything he can do to fix. The damage was done from Obama, from Bush, Clinton before him, Papa Bush before him, etc. The damage was done a long time ago. You could even argue it was done in 1971 when we got taken off the gold standards, because that's the same time when you look at debt, the national debt of the United States, it's fine until it hits 1971. Isn't that amazing? And then it just ramps up in a very disturbing way and does not come down ever. Throughout all these years, it has not. It's just like a ramp going up to the sky, to the heavens. And people are arrogant enough out there to say, oh, it has not happened yet, so it's not going to happen. Like this guy said, how many empires did he just talk about falling? And all for the same reasons, I'll remind you. Take care. Be wise to get some medals if you don't have any medals. Take care.